where I've lived most of my life. As most of you know, the Indian Trail Road Bridge is going to be replaced beginning in June, and South Fork Road will be used as a detour. Right-of-way was purchased from my family for turn lanes on Old Monroe Road and South Fork, and it brought me to a point of very much concern about several major safety conditions on South Fork Road. It's my understanding that the Indian Trail Bridge construction will begin in June and is scheduled for completion in November. I talked with Sean Epperson, who is a district traffic engineer with NCDOT, and asked if any other improvements other than turn lanes on Old Monroe Road and a signal light installed at South Fork intersection were planned. He indicated that no other work would be done and became very defensive. He stated that truck traffic would be prohibited on South Fork Road. Didn't have time to ask who would enforce that prohibition. I expressed my concern with the creek crossing where the upstream road shoulder has eroded up to the edge of the pavement. Also, the pavement over the culvert has been degraded by erosion. Minor repairs have been made, but if a car runs off the pavement in that area, a major accident could result. And you can see that on the photos there on the creek crossing. The second concern is the curve on South Fork. Currently, there are ruts as far as 18 inches on the inside edge of the pavement. Cars and or school buses meeting on that curve risk an accident. Third concern is the intersection on Indian Trail Road and South Fork Road. No light is planned for this location. You imagine trying to make a straight across drive to Gribble Road with all the traffic turning left there. So a fourth concern is the narrow width of South Fork. Ruts on the edge of the pavement give indication of many drivers running off the road. From the edge of pavement to edge of pavement, South Fork is only 21 feet wide. Indian Trail Road is much wider. Scott Koffel indicated to me that 15,000 vehicles per day travel Indian Trail Road. Under the current conditions, South Fork Road with 15,000 vehicles on it per day will be a major potential problem. Other concerns involve the fact that the route will likely become a primary route for school bus traffic. I talked with the Union County School Transportation Safety Manager and discussed my concerns. He seemed not to be aware of the detour and indicated that he would contact the same Sean Epperson with DOT. Another concern is the movement of emergency vehicles, particularly at rush hour. I can envision South Fork Road being stacked end to end. I serve on the Stallings Fire Department board, and we have major concerns about emergency vehicle traffic moving at that, particularly during rush hour. The only other routes north of South Fork are Stallings Road and Stouts Road, both of which are miles out of the way. I'm sure both police and EMT share our concern. I'm not a highway engineer, but I am a registered professional engineer, and I retired from Piedmont after 33 years. The last 13 I served as Senior Vice President.
30 seconds.
Senior Vice President of Engineering, so one of my primary responsibilities was the safety of millions of customers that we had there. I learned that we had best determined potential safety problems and address them before the project started. I've served on this council for 3 terms and realize how difficult it is to deal with DOT. But I think we need to at least write them or contact them in writing to express our concerns. And I have several recommendations that are in front of you there as to what would be able to help solve the problems. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Helen.
Well, my husband finished his speech in time, so I was going to continue it, but we're finished.
Well, welcome back.
Thanks.
Good strategy. Good
And you know that's illegal anyway. You can't do that.
We want to do anything illegal?
All right. Next we have Mr. Bob Green. You can take.
Just take the mic here. You probably don't need it. They got their recording, so they got to have it. So don't want to do anything illegal.
My name is Bob Green. I live up in Concord, North Carolina, and I'm the head coach and first baseman for the Carolina Storm wheelchair softball team. I also coach the Charlotte Hornets wheelchair basketball team, and basically I'm here as a player coach to hopefully remind you that about 1.5 years ago we thought it was a pretty good idea to set aside part of that Cottle Creek Park for a accessible wheelchair ball field. not only for us, but the main purpose would be for the children who we would bring in the Miracle League. This is a recognized Miracle League program. We have started, we've not done as good a job as we would like to as far as raising the funds for it, but I'm here to make sure that you know that we still need that field, that we still have a strong need for that field in this community. Also, I'm very excited about the fact that if we stay with Indian Trail, we can help the town, I think, move up in stature with other communities, because there are no other Miracle League fields close by, certainly not in this area. And to be able to say that it's part of this town, I think is important to all of us here. But my main goal is to have a place for these kids to play. And I hope that whatever happens in Cottle Creek, I hope we continue to keep our field in there. It's basically what we're doing is donating $1 million facility to the town. And it would help an awful lot if it was with other ball fields as opposed to being away, tucked in by itself, because these special kids are treated like that all their lives. And it's time that they're treated like everybody else. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you.
Next, we have Gene Griggs.
My name is Eugene Griggs. I live in Cottage Creek, Traven subdivision. I'm not here tonight to complain about the water issue, although it's still an issue. But Tuesday there was supposed to be a town meeting, and I showed up. And there were other people out here in the parking lot waiting. I'm asking the town council to consider. There's a box right here. Why not type it up and put a notice on the door behind here and saying meeting's canceled? We waited for 45 minutes. Not knowing, because everyone's not computer connected. I'm not. Internet, I'm not on the internet. So I'm asking the town council, if you have a cancellation of the meeting, to at least put it in the box out here so we can read it and we'll know. Thank you.
Duly noted. And
It was put up Friday. I didn't come and check it after I put it up Friday.
When I looked in the box Tuesday and there was nothing there, we all did. There was a lady here.
I had to see if somebody took it down because it was put up Friday. So I do apologize.
and find a way that we can ask Mr. Griggs or get him to, if he's not on the internet, a way to
Sure.
to sunshine list or something we can notify you. So
Well, it was just me, there was other people. Old lady came here to sell her property that she had a notice from you guys about the meeting and she didn't know either. So.
okay, thank you. Michael Falkenberry.
Good evening. Michael Falkenberry, 519 Biggest Circle. Many of you know me as the admin to the Hornet's Nest Facebook page. Lately, there isn't much to post due to the same type of events repeating from the past. I might as well post the word ditto each day and instruct everyone to listen to previous council meetings and for them to watch old news stories regarding Indian Trail. The continuing finger pointing, playing the victim, and name calling again has risen from the ashes of Indian Trail town politics. Is this a good image for Indian Trail for when petition business owners Google search the town of Indian Trail, especially when two council members are doing the same they are accused others of doing in the past? Who pays the price for the juvenile postings by city council members? The image of the town and the efforts of town staff in rebuilding the reputation for Indian Trail is who? A reminder, the same type of postings on Facebook is what got two former council members into serious trouble with public opinion. What I'm reading on the internet are the same arguments being made, which is we must learn from the past, but you can't use the past because Indian Trail has to move forward. Yet council members on Facebook claim to leave the past in the past, but during council meetings, the past has to be addressed. Very confusing. An accusation was written by two council members on Facebook, a recent editorial submitted by a Sarah Southland in the local newspaper claiming the person is fake. Can the two council members who wrote that accusation provide evidence to back it up? Would the Inquirer Journal allow a fake person to submit an editorial? I wouldn't think so, considering the reputation of the paper will be jeopardized. If there is evidence to support the accusation, then please post the information instead of looking like paranoid public officials. Otherwise, you come across as elected officials slandering residents of Indian Trail. I have witnessed that enough in the past, and they need to change. I still look at the calendar to see it's 2016, but why does the same nonsense continue with different council members after each election? A comment from a council member was made during the last council meeting during council comments. She would respond to emails if she thinks it's town business. I sent an email to the same council member addressing their behavior during a council meeting. Why didn't I get a response, considering it is town business? I still received a public apology from the mayor. I understand he has another health crisis, but again, he's had several months to make the right decision, to man up, to be the man that he's supposed to be and the leader of this town that he should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Falconberry. That moves us over to the law enforcement update. Jay?
Good evening. I can talk tonight. I couldn't talk on Saturday. I'm back, so I'll be about an hour. Sunday, March the 6th, two most noteworthy things I'm going to go over with you. We had an armed robbery at 1:30 a.m. in the morning at the Murphy's gas station here in Indian Trail. Had a white male with a hoodie and a mask on, came in armed with a handgun, robbed the store clerk. Our folks responded out, ran a K9 track on it, and detectives are still working on some leads on that case right now, but no arrest has been made on it. And then less than 24 hours later, that evening at 9:30, a male entered into the Arby's restaurant and robbed them at gunpoint, again with a mask on. However, the first male was a white male, the second male was a black male. Obviously, we don't think the two are the same perpetrators. We're not saying that the crimes are not connected, though, because they could very well be, folks working in conjunction together. So we're a little bit unreminded on that one as well to be tied in, but a K9 track did yield a little bit of evidence on that one that we are doing some interviews with right now. So there has been an unrelated arrest related to the investigation on that one. In other words, there was a gentleman that we ran across during the course of that investigation that was state wanted from another state, and so he was picked up in the past day, but not necessarily for the charges of the armed robbery itself. A little bit of good news and a little bit of bad news, I guess, and this was kind of dear to my heart. But a good friend of mine, co-worker of mine, Calvin Wayne Mullis, who suffered a stroke a couple of years ago. Some of you might remember he was assigned to Indian Trail as a deputy, February of 2014. Wayne retired today from the local government system under disability. Not going to be able to come back to work full-time as a sworn law enforcement officer. So it's a little bit of a sad day for us. Been working with Wayne for about 20 years now. Wayne and I both started our careers in the town of Marshall for their police department. And then after I came on with the sheriff's office, Wayne came on and came up here working in Indian Trail. So from 2003 on, he's been assigned basically in the roles around Indian Trail. He was on patrol as a county funded deputy, but still worked hand in hand with me up here for years. Went to go be an investigator with the office in the Detective Bureau and was assigned back up here to Indian Trail. So he worked a lot of cases out of the Indian Trail office in the Indian Trail area and was actually stationed in our building for several years. And then came back out of the Detective Bureau back onto our contract patrol up here and was serving in that capacity whenever he had his stroke a couple of years ago. Since the time that he had his stroke and went out on medical leave, we obviously moved his position back up under the umbrella of the sheriff's office main function and then replaced him with somebody else up here. But Wayne's just one of those guys that we'll be missing, and he's got 2 kids, 41 years old, awful young age to be retiring at. Good thing for us, we were able to give him some decent benefits coming out of this, and so hopefully moving forward he can change gears in career path, and he's alive and well with us today, so that's the main thing, and he's a walking miracle in our eyes. But we did have a retirement celebration of sorts with him today, but it was a little bit of a mixed feeling. But I know that several of you, continue to ask how Wayne's doing, so that's all I've got for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to the consent agenda. Do I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Wireman made the motion. All in favor? Consideration to direct staff planning board to prepare a UDO text amendment to allow flexibility in dumpster enclosures, materials, and shopping centers. Councilman Daniels.
Oh, yes, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I'd like to make a slight adjustment to that to include not only to dumpster enclosures and shopping malls, but also to include change of use facilities, which is basically, you have a residential that you were going to say open up an insurance company, you change it from residential to business to include those type of facilities also. Historically,
just one question, what exactly are you trying to change in it? The issue is...
the use of materials for a dumpster enclosure.
Okay, it's still dealing with dumpster enclosures with that. The issue is, this is a special meeting, so we can't change the agenda in a special meeting, so I'm just trying to make sure it's within the agenda item that was listed.
Okay, then what we can do is, we can come back with another agenda item for change of use, so we can stick with this one.
I think you probably need to do another agenda item on another night, since, again, the agenda is fixed for tonight because of this was called as a special meeting. So it'll have to be done as a separate agenda item at a subsequent meeting.
What I was proposing is we stick with this agenda item, at another meeting, come back with another agenda item.
Correct.
Okay? Is that?
That's fine.
That's what I was proposing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't that clear. What is happening with a lot of the malls, such as, not the big shopping malls, but malls where you have small businesses and they have to have a dumpster enclosure. And they're, a lot of that cost will fall on them instead of the landlord. So what I'm asking is to make it easy for them is that we have flexibility in the material instead of, like, for example, the ordinance right now might say you need brick, which could cost you $10,000, $15,000. And if you're a small owner, that's a lot of money. But if they had a flexibility in material, say wrought iron, which would cut it down to $5,000, that would be a great relief for the small businesses. So I'm asking that we do a UDO text amendment and to address that. I'm asking council to consider that and vote on that, and keep in mind that it would help small businesses. It would still have a dumpster enclosure, but they wouldn't have to share the burden of the strict material that's being asked for in the dumpster enclosure now.
1 second, Mark, and I'll get to your question. I'd like to ask Rox, who, maybe can you give a little more explanation on the different materials that we have to use and why we use them, and go from there.
Sure. Just to kind of rehash, what the EDO currently states is that when you install a dumpster enclosure for a building, whether it's a brand new building you just built, or if a dumpster enclosure is being required because you're changing the use or you're intensifying the use, going from maybe a retail shop to a restaurant where you're putting out a lot of extra garbage, you have to build an enclosure that generally matches up with your building. In some cases, maybe that's no big deal, but if you've got a plain old concrete block building, an older building, maybe that's not quite a big deal. But when you do have instances where maybe the building was a brick building, even though it's 25 years old, 30 years old, it can be at times a large expense for, let's say, that tenant who is, again, taking a retail shop space and making it a restaurant suite. That is a sizable cost to have to go ahead and put in that dumpster enclosure. And so there is, there's certainly, from the council's perspective, if they want us, staff, to look at options for that to make it, that transition for existing buildings a little easier for potential, tenants. I think there's some opportunities to look at, could you use other materials? Maybe that's like a hardy type siding. Could you use, I've seen painted corrugated metal used before in other communities, just surrounded with a little landscaping. I don't want to try to write if the council wishes to see an amendment, I don't want to write it here on the spot. Those are the kind of ideas that you would come up with to get screening. So the dumpsters are screened, but maybe just use a lower grade material for existing buildings that may not have the budget to do the Gucci enclosure.
That's good. another question, would this be primarily for new construction, or is this for all, I know it's for all existing, but you would assume that most existing buildings now would already have it. Would that be true or not?
No, not necessarily. It just drive by. I mean, just when you're driving down 74 Old Monroe or wherever your travels take you, that not all buildings, commercial buildings, have dumpsters and closures. Sometimes you just see a dumpster sitting in the middle of the parking lot, and it's not every case, but they are. It's not terribly uncommon.
I'm talking about an Indian Trail now, and you're doing the same thing. What keeps the business from not doing it then? I mean, if
they would be, so an existing business might be grandfathered. Maybe they built that commercial business under the county codes back in the quote day. And again, I'll just use that, I'll repeat that scenario. It's been a retail shop, or it's been an office building for years and years and years. All of a sudden, someone's got a great, restaurant they want to open up. You're investing a ton of money in the building. You're intensifying the use, particularly as it relates to garbage. The UDO says you need to start bringing up non-conforming aspects of your site up to current code. One of those pieces would be the dumpster enclosure, and so that's the scenario that would probably capture potential new investors in the community.
So upon the sale of that building, then the next person coming in would have to do something, correct? Because he wouldn't be grandfathered in?
Not the city. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It does not get triggered with sale. It gets triggered with investment or change of use in an existing building. So what the code says is if you take an existing building that has what we call non-conforming features, things that don't meet current code, once you pass a certain threshold, you need to start bringing those things up to current code. The building code is the same way, it has similar provisions. So it's when you start making investment in that building is when you start bringing those things up to current code. Or if you change the use to something dramatically increasing the use. So those are the two most common scenarios that we would come in and say, well, okay, at this point you need to put a dumpster closure.
And I'm just trying to find out how often this happens. Just
a couple times a year. I'll just say five. I've got 5 fingers up in the air right now. I don't have a number. It comes up. It's not an everyday thing, but it certainly comes up from time to time.
okay, thank you.
Mark? Well, one of the questions I was gonna ask is to have him explain it, but, so thank you for that explanation. Out of curiosity, how many complaints have you received about this particular issue, let's say over the past couple of years, to your recollection? 5?
We oftentimes have folks that they've expressed that that is kind of a little bit of a hit for their budget to have to do when they're in closure. It has to be a high grade architectural material. Like I'll just again reuse the brick example. That does hit them pretty hard. I'll lean over here and maybe ask Jay or Scott. Like we have a brick enclosure at Chestnut Square Park. Do you recall what that cost to build?
I don't. That was part of Carolina Courts, so I'm not sure.
But anyways, it's not inexpensive, and so so I'd say to your point, I don't have a number for you, but I have heard folks indicate that is a burden to.
Right. But I guess my only concern would be that I just want to make sure they're not going to use any cheap material, right, like plastic or something like that. Obviously we don't want to overburden the businesses, and because we do want to show businesses we're somewhat friendly, and we don't want to add any additional costs if at all we can avoid it. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we're not really removing that curb appeal from what we talked about before, just making sure that the town looks aesthetically pleasing as well. So that would be my only recommendation, is that we're very careful about the material that we use.
If you'd like, I'll understand this, if you have a question, again, if council wants to do this amendment, it's your choice, not that. But if you decide to move forward, we can present options and ask the planning board what they think as well, and we'll do our best to make it visual as well. So it's one thing to list a material off, but it's another to see a picture. Okay, well, this is what we're talking about. This is what it would look like in the real world. But we'll try to drum up as many options as we can and see where it goes.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Savoy? So, I guess,
second time I'll agree with Mark tonight, but I agree with about the curb appeal aspects of it. And I do agree with Mr. Daniels in lessening the burden that some of these small businesses incur. So it sounds like from your comments that there is some leeway that we could put in there to help lessen that burden possibly, and you coming and presenting some options to that text amendment rewrite?
If council sees value in this,
Possibly.
we could come up with some options. And we may come in, we give you 5 options, you might think 2 of them aren't very good, and that's perfectly fine. And, again, I can just commit that we'll make it as visual as possible, so you're not trying to use your mind's eye to see what that's gonna look like. And we'll try, we'll look around and see what other communities are doing, to see if we get any good ideas from them.
I like that option.
I just want to make a statement on the dumpster enclosures. Dumpsters aren't pretty sight. So to have an enclosure, to have an enclosure that looks somewhat like the building, you're not sure what you're really looking at until you actually open the doors and you see all that's hidden behind there. To me, I don't want to burden the businesses either, but I also don't want to make Indian Trail look like a raffle kind of thing. So that's, you know.
Can I chime in at this point? That's why it's directing the staff to give us some alternatives, not to, I don't want to live, I want to keep the aesthetics of the town intact also. So it's not to say, well, you know, we're going to have cardboard or we're going to have plywood. I don't think the staff is going to give us something like that. I'm trusting that the staff will give us first-class alternatives to brick. Right, Rox? That's what I think that's what you would like to give us. First-class alternatives to, and that's going to cost the store owner, the businessman, less money. If it's $10,000 and we can get something that would pass the council that's aesthetically appealing, that's cost them $6,000, you just save them $4,000, and that's what we're striving for.
If the council wants to move forward with this, we'll certainly put up all the options. We will do our best to put up an agenda.
Well, I make the motion if council.
Hold on one second, because I have another question.
Go ahead.
What do we have now? What does it say now? Does it say if it's a brick building, we have to use brick? If it's a wood building, we have to use wood?
That's correct.
And it's specific to one thing, is that?
Generally speaking, I mean, there's always nuance in the administration, because you have, what if you have a building that's of a low quality material? Do you want to replicate that, continue that metal, siding on it? And so there's always nuances to the administration, but generally speaking, if a brick building was being built today to house the Verizon store, then the enclosure, the expectation would be a matching or close to matching material for the enclosure.
Okay. All right, and I kind of agree with Mr. Daniels on what he's saying. The one thing that worries me about it is you would assume that the business owner would always choose the less expensive option. I mean, I would think they would, because they wouldn't, they want to spend less money. And therefore, I guess we're going to have to come up with, like you said, the other options that we have, which may be just one other option, or whatever. And I don't have a problem with that, with trying to save some money. I can't have 10 options or 5 options or whatever. If you just 1 or 2 other options, it might be less expensive. But the one thing they will always do, I would assume, will always choose the lesser payment option. All right, is that it? Anybody have anything else to say? Okay.
So do we need to make a motion or
Yeah.
just get a consensus direction?
Yeah, I guess we need to make a motion to direct staff, or Keith, help me out on that. Is that what we do? Make a motion to direct staff on other options? Okay.
And to bring back, suggested, do it as a text amendment?
Okay, well,
You would, so what you would be directing staff is to initiate a UDO text amendment for options on, for dumpster enclosures at existing shopping centers, which is, I think,
Materials.
okay, well, that sounds good, you did a good job there, Rox.
All right,
All
so
in-
if you allow me to make the motion, is that
Oh,
okay?
no, go ahead, I was gonna say that was just me, but go ahead. If
All
you'd
right,
like to
well,
make
if
it-
you would accept that as the motion, then so moved.
I will, I'll accept that as a motion, and, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay. It looks as if we don't have any discussion items, so that's gonna move us to updates, managers' updates. Koppel.
Very briefly, Assistant Finance Director started on the 1st of March. Finance Director will start on the 21st of March. Human Resource Director will start on the 1st of April.
Good job.
That's it.
Quick question. How many vacant positions do we have? There's some numbers that are floating around. I would just want to make sure we get it on record that it's correct.
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but these are 3 key ones. Well, I will get back to you on that. Well, yes, there's been some misleading numbers out about the number of vacancies and when they became vacant and all that, but from my standpoint, we have 3 key positions right here that I think we're very glad to be getting filled.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, V, let's go to department head update. Jason, Parks and Recs.
Okay. Evening again. I'm going to go through the first couple slides are really just some achievements that we've seen as a department since the last time I was up in front of you, or even in the last couple months. As you probably know, we're getting into tournament season, and we are very excited to say that we have right now 31 tournaments that are booked for 2016. Each of those have paid their deposit and confirmed all the dates. First one's this weekend, which we'll get into a little bit more later. One of the great things that we can do, having the 2 parks that we have now, is team up with local businesses, local schools. So we have had 2 different schools now that have come on board that are using our facilities since they do not have their own facilities. So right now, Carmel Christian joined the schedule for Crooked Creek. They're practicing out at the ball fields from roughly 3 to 5, which is great because those are the times that no one else is using the field. So we are able to utilize Carmel Christian on the baseball fields, and Metro Atlanta Christian has come back for another season for tennis. They utilize tennis courts for both their boys team and their girls team. A couple things that we've done over the last few years really is always pursue grants. Councilman Soy brought it up earlier. Most recently, Katie actually was able to get our NFL Carolina Panthers flag football grant, and that is a grant that's granted through Carolina Panthers through the NFL for $1,000 worth of equipment for us to start a flag football league. So that'll be something we're going to initiate really in the fall, and we've seen there's nothing like that in this area right now that'll compete with local teams that can come in there and they can get their teams going or get kids going to play flag football at a younger age that may not have an opportunity like that. We also have a grant that we got last fall from NCRPA and Blue Cross Blue Shield that's going to get initiated this August. Those are going to be play prints that will get painted on the ground at Chestnut Square Park. What they are, we're going to have different designs that will get painted on the sidewalks leading to the playground and also in the sidewalks in the quad area that will engage more physical activity for kids. And then for other grants, we're always out there looking for other grants that are coming up. There's always the Carolina Freight Trail that we've talked about pursuing in the future. And like Woolpert mentioned earlier, we can't pursue another part of the grant until we finalize these funds that we're going to get for this year. But there's other grants that come up, so we're always looking for those as they come about. One of the things that we're in the heavy stage right now is looking into sponsorships. There is a lot of opportunity out there for us to get involved with local businesses, and I can excitedly say that we have in the final steps of securing over $21,000 right now, $21,500 to be exact. That should be done in the next couple weeks. And we have more meetings coming soon with local businesses. So there's a lot of opportunity that we really are kind of getting into, both for Crooked and Chestnut, not just with the parks too, but with special events, with our program guide, for advertisements. So we're getting a lot of involvement, and we're really excited because everyone that we've talked to so far, local businesses, they're thrilled to be involved. And I think once the word gets out, we get a couple of these larger ones on, and the word gets out there, more people are going to come in, and it'll even grow to something bigger. Some projects that we got going on right now, we are getting ready to put in new mile markers at Crooked Creek. So if you've been to Chestnut in the past year and a half, we did mark those trails for walking, and now we're going to mark the trails that are currently paved at Crooked Creek. So those will be done next week. And then we're also installing birdhouses on the Chestnut Trail that was painted by a former Sun Valley High School student for an environmental service project. Product update, the equipment for the fitness stations have shipped. They'll be coming in route probably next week. Week after that they'll be installed. So that's coming out soon. We're working on the current disc golf layout and the splash pad layout as well. So those are something that we're constantly working on. We have finalized the path for the walking trail that we're going to add on. And once we move forward with getting the other designs done, then we'll start to work on that trail. Shelters. So we've added 2 shelters at Crooked Creek. But more importantly, the one thing I want to notice is as of Tuesday of this week, we've already had 23 applications come in for shelter rentals. That's a significant number just because it's so early in the season. You know, a lot of these shelter rentals take place in spring, the summer, the fall, when people are out there, they want to do, you know, high school graduations, birthday parties, but it's, you know, we just really opened up the fields back March 1st, and that the fact that March 8th we had 23 rentals already booked is really exciting. Last year for the entire year we only had 56. So a lot of that was the word's getting out, it's a brand new facility, both of them, and now that we've done this, it's just going to expand and be even more, and now that we've had more shelters built, I see those numbers significantly increasing. A couple other projects staff's initiated, and I might have, hopefully you've seen it last week, we actually are starting to do a newsletter each month. So the newsletter went out last week and went through our Constant Contact. It's also on our website. So our Constant Contact has right now over 1,300 people that receive it via email. Here is a screenshot of it if you did not see it, but it's also on our website. The goal is really a lot of the stuff that we'll talk about in this update, but for the residents that may not be here, may not be able to attend or listen to the meeting online. So it'll go through different projects that are going throughout the park, different ways for them to get involved if they want to hear more about it. There'll be a link on the bottom for them to contact us and get involved with get the email if they saw it on our website. And then also just opportunities that may not be known to them, like the community garden. So when we did this newsletter last week, it came out, we had 4 openings in the community garden plots, and they're all sold now. So this obviously was effective, because that was the only way that we were getting the word out about community garden, and then as of yesterday, all the plots are taken. Obviously, we did the master plan earlier, but what I want to talk about a little bit more in detail were the other questions that weren't related to facilities. So one of the questions that we asked during the survey was which program from this list below is most important to your household. The sections were youth summer camps, youth sports programs, adult fitness, preschool programs, programs for seniors, art programs, special events, and homeschool, and then other, where they were able to fill in the blank. If you can't see it, the number 1 was special events, number 2 was adult fitness. So what we're doing from that is we're taking that information as those top 2, and then number 3 with being youth sports, is we're directly looking at new events. These are just a list of 5 different concepts that our staff has talked about doing right now. You know, we have been very fortunate to have the staff that we've had in the past. With the town, they've done some phenomenal events. And Susan, in the back of the room in the corner there, she didn't know I was going to talk about her right now, so she's probably a little surprised. As of this week, Susan's actually part of the Park and Rec Department now, so we are absolutely thrilled to have her on board, because all the events that have been taking place that either took place here at CAC or in the park that she's done in the past have just been a huge success, and we are going to build off of that, having a larger team to be able to help program and get the events out there. So these are just some examples of things we're talking about, and that's based off of the feedback we got from the survey. Pretty much what these 3 things are saying is those are the number of people that I said gave us the response. So number 1 was special events, number 2 adult fitness, and youth sports. So other programs that we have coming up this summer, we have 2 summer camps that are already booked at Chestnut Square Park. One is going to be Jump Bunch Olympics, which is an elementary school age children summer camp, and then we have a soccer camp that's for 5 to 10-year-olds. And then Katie, our program coordinator, is going to start running programs coming in April. We did save one of the community garden plots for us to do programming. So we'll have a gardening 101 class, a Jump Bunch pre-K program, soccer shops, which is just a daily after-school program for 2 to 8-year-olds, 4-H classes, and then a mini chef class for young kids as well. And then back to the survey, one of the big things was adult programs. So Katie's also going to be initiating a Couch to 5K program, getting adults up, movement, running, and then a UFC boot camp, which will start in April. And then other ideas that we're discussing and going to implement in the spring will be cards with seniors at the park, and then just a senior meetup. Maybe it's Tuesdays, 3 o'clock, meet up at Crooked Creek Park. They can meet at different places in the park and play bocce, cornhole, walking, they can play games. And then we are doing yoga again, starting in Crossing Pass Park Saturday, April 2nd, which is a free yoga class every Saturday, April all the way to September. 2 more updates, like I said, we did add the shade structures at Crooked Creek that are complete. Staff's working on top of the 2 summer camps that I mentioned. We have more summer camps that we're discussing with different vendors right now to see if we can add to that. And then one of the things that we've done in our department since the beginning is have a lot of local community groups get involved. We did it with painting fences, with Rotary Club, and with different organizations. The upcoming one that we have working on right now is the Girl Scout troop, and I don't remember, I think it was Troop 256. They reached out to us and they want to do a project at Crooked Creek, so Katie's going to attend one of their next meetings and get all the girls involved and do a project out at Crooked Creek. So like I said, tournament season's coming up this weekend. We have a baseball tournament that will have anywhere from 16 to 20 teams. The dates are set. Some teams add on last minute, so minimum would be 16 teams, so you may have up to 20. They will range anywhere from 8-year-olds up to 14-year-olds. Just this tournament alone, take away the dog park, take away the playground, we'll have 1,500 people at a minimum at the park. So that's a lot, and that's 2 days, a lot of people. It is something that if you haven't been out there for that, it's a sight to be seen. It's packed, and that's not including, like I said, dog park, people that are just along the walking trail, people that are there for the playground. Last time I was up here, we did an update on the dog park, and since then, numbers have just jumped through the roof. We opened up the dog park in November, and since then we've had 200 combined between resident and non-residents, $238 that have come and got passes. And that's since November, like I said, so a lot of that is during the cold season. We're expecting now that spring's out, summer's coming out, that number to increase even more. And on top of the residents, non-residents that are using it, we've actually added some more structures inside the dog park. We added more benches and shade structures. And then just to wrap it all up, field use, we continue to see a very heavy use on both the baseball field and the spring fields that we're going to open up at Chestnut Square Park. For Chestnut, 10 different organizations will be on the fields, tennis courts, and volleyball courts. And then we have 23 different uses, or recommended uses, requested use for the baseball fields that are going between baseball, youth baseball, girls softball, and adult softball, and then the tournaments as well. And just a couple pictures of other amenities we've added in the last couple months with the help of other staff. Public Works Department, we have cornhole boards that are now officially installed next to one of the shelters, and then 2 bocce courts as well, which is next to that shelter, which that picture was taken before we installed all the seating underneath. But each of the 2 new shelters had 6 picnic tables underneath it. That's it.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, we have a lot going on, and this is probably the busiest time of the year with getting into the not just tournaments, but the fields opening up at Chestnut Square Park, and then the fields that are being used at Crooked, as well as the dog park just keeps being increased use every day.
Jason, you do a good job, and you got a lot going on. And Katie, I know you're a big, you help out a bunch. And Susan, we know how hard you work, but Katie's kind of off in the background back there.
He threw me out over that. I didn't know I was going to say anything, but I just want to say, I am equally as excited to be working with these rock stars. And I'm excited now, even more excited to be on the team because there's even more going on than I even knew. And a couple of days that we're catching up, and we're always flying everywhere. We don't know what everyone does, but I'm just so excited to be working with this team, and that's why I have my little kids' kicks on now, so I can keep up with them. We're going to have a great time.
Katie, good job. Have you got anything to say? I'm sorry. You good? You got thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay. Well, behind every good man's a good, hard-working woman helping you out there. I can tell you that.
This town is absolutely blessed with the staff we have. We have phenomenal staff. I mean, I can't say enough things about what we have, and it's not a 9-to-5 job for all of our staff. They are dedicated to just get it done, and they are just as passionate as anyone I know that loves what we're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. Good job, all of you.
Other questions, comments?
Just one quick comment.
Yeah.
Just one
before I walk.
I don't know if anyone has reached out. Reenactment groups are looking for places to do Civil War and 18th century type of reenactments. They're always looking for areas, and it draws a huge crowd. So I'll just toss that out there, if you're interested. Okay. It's a neat activity as well for children because they go out and reenact these different battles, and they'll put the Civil War canvas tents up out there. It's really neat for the children in particular.
One other quick one.
Yeah.
How much is a shelter? Just, I meant to ask, how much does it cost? Is it by the hour?
To rent?
Yeah.
There is two different sizes, so the new ones that we put in, there's two different time blocks too. So we do a morning time block that you can rent it, and it anywhere from 8 to 2, and then the afternoon time block is from 3 to close. So the reason we do that is that in between time, our staff can turn it over and clean it. And if you are a resident, it's for the 8 to 2 slot, it's $30.
$30.
And then the afternoon slot is $40.
And that's all day? Is it basically?
Well, yeah, so you actually have it anywhere from 8 to 2 or 3 to 8. You don't have to use it from 8 to 11 or 8, you can use it from any time in between those time slots through yours. That includes all of our shelters.
You can't do it any less time, because I've, in the past, remember people doing it by the hour, you could like, one person would come in, another one come out, but so it's kind of once you got it, you got it.
Yeah, and you don't have to use the whole time. If you just want it for an hour, you can.
And you can go use it without paying anything.
Yeah, if you want to go out there and bring your kids and just sit by the picnic table, absolutely. What you'll see is during the week, it's pretty much available the whole time. On the weekends, we do have kiosks that we're putting up, and it'll tell you if there's a reservation. And if there's not a reservation sheet out there, or there's a reservation sheet that says, oh, from 3 to 8 it's booked, then there's nothing booked in the morning, then absolutely you're welcome to use it. What we did for the new one that we put by the cornhole boards, we put 2 grills in, and then the one by shelters at the playground at both Crooked, and then the shelter by the tennis court at Chestnut, there's grills there as well.
The cornhole boards and the bocce are just wide open. You can go, anybody can use them anytime. You don't rent those by.
We do not. There is no reservation for that.
No time limit on it, nothing? Okay, cool.
And what we're looking at doing, we're going to add some signage to it that'll tell people just the basic rules. So if you come up to it, you might not know what it is and never seen it before. So we'll have a sign that'll say what it is, how to play it, and that'll give you some more information about it.
Gotcha.
And that's probably more for the bocce than it is cornhole.
Right, right. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
That moves us to council comments.
Here we come.
Good. Just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and had a good meeting, I think. Fairly short, and considering, and did a good job, Jason and Katie and Susan and Rox. Thank y'all for all your input. And that's all I got to say.
Wow. I want to thank the staff. You guys are amazing, absolutely amazing. Council, it's always wonderful working with you guys. Everyone out there, thank you for coming and sitting through, and we're getting you out pretty early tonight. That's it. Have a great rest of the week.
Very cool. I guess I'll echo what everybody has already said, but I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate you coming and staying. This is a short one, so staff, again, thank you for all your hard work and diligence and all the presentations and leading up to preparing for these council meetings. I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into that, so thank you.
Gordon Daniels.
8:15. We said 8 o'clock, right? It was a good meeting. You want the job permanently, David?
Beg your pardon?
I said it was a good meeting. Do you want the job permanently?
I don't think it's up to me.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I have one side comment that I want to make. I was concerned about the mayor and his situation, but I saw that he wrote an editorial Sunday, so I said, well, everything must be coming along fine. And what I would like for the mayor to do was to write one more editorial this Sunday, just kind of following up what he said he would do, that he would give a resident of Indian Trail an apology. Everyone please get home safely, and look forward to the next meeting.
Council, thank you for another excellent meeting tonight, very good discussion. Staff, phenomenal job. Presentation was really good. Jason, spot on. A lot of good material. Chase, thank you for continuing to keep us safe. Is he around here? See, he's out doing his job, so he's keeping us safe. And good law enforcement update. So, and residents, thank you again for sticking around and listening to us here. And I'm looking forward to getting the park information out to the residents, looking forward to your feedback. So, you know, if you talk to any other residents, let them know it's going to be out there. We're definitely soliciting their feedback. So thank you and have a good evening.
Yes, we do have a closed session, so, do I read the NCGS 143-318? 11A3, to protect the attorney-client privilege, and to consider and give instructions concerning a potential or actual claim, administrative procedure, or judicial action. So with that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Go ahead, we'll go into closed session.
Oh, we're going to close session.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I almost got it. I almost did.
So moved.
So moved. All in favor? It's unanimous.